Welcome to Occult Mysticism, your guide to ceremonial magic. Today, we explore Complete Golden Dawn System of Magic by Israel Regardie, a comprehensive blueprint of the Hermetic Order's rituals and teachings. Join us as we unlock this arcane system. Subscribe for more esoteric knowledge. We are gathered here today not merely as students before a book, but as seekers before a monument. The volume which is the subject of our contemplation is not a text in the ordinary sense. It is a repository, an ark, a veritable library of wisdom rescued from the deluge of time and the schisms of men. To open the Complete Golden Dawn System of Magic as compiled and courageously preserved by the 20th century initiate, Israel Regardie, is to open a gateway into the very heart of the Western esoteric tradition. It is to stand upon a threshold where the fragmented streams of Rosicrucianism, of the Hebrew Qabalah, of Hermetic philosophy, of Egyptian mystery, and of European ceremonial magic converge to form a single mighty river of spiritual praxis. We are not examining a theory, we are being initiated into a system. This is its first and most profound secret. The work stands as a testament against the decay which so often befalls those institutions entrusted with the light of wisdom. For the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, in its late 19th century flowering, represented one of the most brilliant and comprehensive syntheses of esoteric knowledge ever formulated. Its own historical account claims a lineage stretching back to the great Rosicrucian revival, and through that, to the vastly older wisdom of the Kabbalistic rabbis and of that very ancient secret knowledge, the magic of the Egyptians. This was not to be a mere philosophical society, but a working continuation of the ancient mysteries, a Hermetic society whose members are taught the principles of occult science and the magic of Hermes. This was a deliberate and audacious attempt to re-establish a true initiatory college, a modern Eleusis, where the fragments of the perennial philosophy scattered across the ages could be reassembled into a coherent and practical curriculum for the soul's development. Yet, like all things born into the world of men, it was subject to the forces of dissolution, to secrecy that curdled into obscurity, to disagreements that fractured its unity, and to the inevitable attrition of time which threatened to scatter its teachings to the four winds, leaving behind only whispers and legends. The monumental work of preservation undertaken by its author was therefore not simply an act of scholarship, it was an act of profound magical necessity, ensuring that this grand and practical system of human development would not perish from the earth, but would instead become a living inheritance for all who would earnestly seek the light in the generations to follow. We are told that the order's modern inception began with the discovery of certain cipher manuscripts, which, when deciphered, gave the address of a continental adept from whom the warrant for the work was received. From this seed, tended by its founding chiefs, men like Dr. William Wynne Westcott and Samuel Liddell MacGregor Mathers, grew a spiritual edifice of unparalleled complexity and beauty. The final published work stands as the complete record of that edifice, a grand system designed for the methodical attainment of the great work, the conscious evolution of the individual soul and its ultimate reunion with the divine source from which it sprang. Before one may even presume to approach the practical mysteries contained within this great system, one must first cultivate a specific philosophical and psychological disposition, a proper attitude of mind and soul without which the entire work becomes not only fruitless, but perilous. The compiler of this great work, in his own prefatory remarks, lays down with solemn gravity the essential prerequisites for the student. He speaks not of intellectual genius nor of innate psychic talent, but of two far more fundamental virtues, persistence and determination. For the path of the great work is not a short and easy road, but a long and arduous ascent. The initial enthusiasm of the novice, so bright and promising at the outset, is of little avail if it is not supported by an unflagging will, a resolute commitment to continue the labor even when the path grows dark and the tangible results seem few. The world, as he notes, is filled with talented failures and educated derelicts. It is persistence alone that is omnipotent. This is the first great lesson. The art magical is a royal art, and it demands of its practitioners a royal and unwavering spirit. But beyond this, and of even greater import, is the profound warning against the subtle poisons of the soul which may arise in the course of the work. For when the aspirant, through the practice of these sacred techniques, begins to open the gates of his own inner world, he releases tremendous energies from the unconscious depths. A new source of power floods his being, and unless he is properly prepared, this influx can overwhelm the unprepared ego. The text speaks of this danger with profound psychological acuity, warning of the inflation of the ego, of that state of infantile megalomania wherein the student mistakes the universal and impersonal forces which flow through him for his own personal creation. He begins to believe that he is the source of the light rather than a vessel for it. This is a spiritual sickness of the most terrible kind, a mana personality, which leads to a grotesque egotism, messianic fantasies, and the utter destruction of that most necessary of all faculties, effective self-criticism. The student becomes, in the eyes of the world and even in his own, a caricature of the adept, a hollow mask of authority concealing a soul lost in a wilderness of self-deception. The true purpose of the great work is the transcendence of the limited ego and its union with the higher and divine genius. This inflation is its perfect and catastrophic inversion, the enthronement of the ego as a false god. Therefore, the text insists upon the necessity of a preliminary purification of the vessel. The aspirant must learn to distinguish between the still, small voice of his higher self and the clamorous, infantile chatter of his unconscious conscience, the Freudian superego. He must learn to hold a proper and reverent attitude towards the whole of his being, body and soul, recognizing that Kether is in Malkuth and Malkuth is in Kether, that the divine is not separate from the material, but is the very ground and essence of it. This preliminary work of self-knowledge, of psychological honesty, and of humble self-examination is the indispensable foundation upon which the entire temple of the heart must be built. Without it, the most powerful rituals and the most sublime knowledge will lead not to illumination, but to madness. The entire edifice of the Golden Dawn rests upon one supreme and all-encompassing glyph, a grand diagram which serves as both a map of the universe and a blueprint of the human soul. This is the Otz Chiim, the Tree of Life, the central pillar of the Holy Qabalah. To approach the system without first comprehending the profound architecture of this tree is to wander aimlessly in a palace of infinite chambers with no key and no guide. As we find in the first volumes of this great compendium, the initial task of the aspirant is to learn what is rightly called the magical alphabet. This is not merely the learning of the Hebrew letters, though that is a necessary preliminary, but the assimilation of the entire symbolic structure of the 10 Sephiroth and the 22 paths which connect them. Before one can even begin to understand the Sephiroth, one must first come to a reverent appreciation for the letters themselves, for the order teaches emphatically that the Hebrew letters are not mere phonetic signs, but are in themselves magical symbols of tremendous power and antiquity. The Zohar itself, that great storehouse of Kabbalistic lore from which the order drew so much of its wisdom, contains a sublime legend of the creation in which each of the 22 letters appears before the throne of the Holy One, pleading its own unique virtue as the perfect instrument for the world's beginning. The letter Tav pleads its place as the final letter of Emeth, or truth, but is rejected for its association with Maveth, or death. Shin pleads its place in the divine name Shaddai, but is rejected because it is also the key component of Shikr, falsehood. One by one they come from Tav to Gimel, each presenting its claim and each being gently set aside, until at last the letter Beth appears, whose name is the initial of Beracha, or blessing. The Holy One accepts this plea, declaring, "Truly, O Beth, I will surely create the world by thee only." And so the book of Genesis begins not with Aleph, the first, but with Beth, the second, Bereshith bara Elohim. In the beginning, Elohim created. This profound allegory teaches the aspirant from the very outset that every letter is a living force, a unique cosmic principle with its own history, its own power, and its own place in the divine scheme. To learn this magical alphabet, then, is to learn the very constituents of reality. The Sephiroth are the 10 primordial emanations of deity, the numbered stages of divine unfolding from the singular, unknowable brilliance of the crown, Kether, down to the manifest and material kingdom of Malkuth. They are the divine principles, the archetypal ideas, the very grammar of being. These 10 stations of existence are not arranged in a simple linear descent, but are structured upon a glyph of 3 great pillars. On the right hand stands the pillar of mercy, composed of the Sephiroth of Chokmah wisdom, Chesed mercy, and Netzach victory. This is the pillar of the masculine, the expansive, the positive pole of existence. On the left hand stands the pillar of severity, composed of Bina, understanding, Qabalah, strength, and Hod, splendor. This is the pillar of the feminine, the restrictive, the receptive, and formative pole of existence. Between them stands the middle pillar of mildness, the pillar of equilibrium, composed of Kether, Tifereth, beauty, Yesod, foundation, and Malkuth. This central pillar is the path of reconciliation, the royal road of consciousness that balances the opposing forces of mercy and severity. In the Temple of the Golden Dawn, these great cosmic pillars are made physically manifest as the two pillars which stand before the altar, the white pillar of Jashin on the right and the black pillar of Boaz on the left. The candidate, in his journey, is taught that he must tread the narrow path between them to balance the forces within his own nature. For unbalanced force is evil, as the Hierophant declares. Unbalanced severity is but cruelty and oppression, but that also unbalanced mercy is but weakness which would allow and abet evil. The tree is not a static diagram to be memorized by rote. It is a living, breathing organism. It is the macrocosm, the great pattern of the cosmos in its unfolding. And, as the Hermetic axiom declares, as above, so below, it is also the microcosm, the inner constitution of man himself. The aspirant is taught to see the Sephiroth within his own sphere of sensation, to understand that the crown, Kether, is the divine spark above his head, that beauty, Tifereth, is the center of harmony within his heart, and that the kingdom, Malkuth, is the firm ground upon which he stands. This doctrine, meticulously laid out in the knowledge lectures and amplified by the inclusion of excerpts from MacGregor Mather's seminal introduction to the Qabalah Unveiled, establishes the Qabalah not as a piece of religious speculation, but as the fundamental science of correspondences, the wiring diagram of reality upon which every subsequent ritual, symbol, and operation of the order is grounded. The four worlds, Atziluth, the world of archetypes, Bria, the world of creation, Yetzirah, the world of formation, and Hasha, the world of action, are the four great planes of being through which the divine impulse descends, and through which the magician must learn to ascend. The divisions of the soul, the divine Neshama, the reasoning Ruach, and the instinctual Nephesh are the faculties within the aspirant which correspond to these planes. The whole of the Golden Dawn system is the art of consciously navigating this map, of awakening these faculties, and of traversing these planes with will and with wisdom. If the Qabalah provides the grand map of existence, it is the art of ceremonial magic that provides the vehicle for its exploration. The system of the Golden Dawn is, above all, a system of praxis. It teaches that the universe is not a static object of contemplation, but a dynamic field of intelligent forces with which the trained will can interact. The primary engines of this interaction are the sublime rituals of the pentagram and the hexagram, which are presented in the fourth volume of this work with an exactitude and clarity that leaves no room for ambiguity. These are not, as the profane mind might imagine, empty gestures of superstition. They are precise and powerful techniques of spiritual engineering. The ritual of the pentagram is the fundamental tool for interacting with the four great elemental divisions of reality: fire, water, air, and earth. The student learns to trace its five-pointed form in the air, not as a dead geometric shape, but as a living sigil of power, vibrating with it the divine names which correspond to the elements in the four quarters of the universe. By this ritual, the magician first performs a banishing, a profound act of psychic hygiene which clears his personal atmosphere, his sphere of sensation, of all chaotic and conflicting influences, creating a consecrated space wherein the great work may be safely performed. He then learns to perform the invoking ritual, which calls forth the specific elemental force he wishes to engage. This is the art of consciously tuning one's own being to a particular current in the cosmic symphony. The ritual of the hexagram is a yet more advanced and potent operation, designed for the invocation of the seven great planetary forces, those vast archetypal intelligences which govern the broader currents of life and destiny. At the heart of these rituals lies a secret of immense power, what the order terms the vibratory mode of pronouncing the divine names. The aspirant is taught that the names of God are not mere words, but sonic formulae which, when pronounced with deep inhalation and a resonant, vibrating exhalation, have the power to awaken the corresponding centers within his own being and to cause the very fabric of the astral light to tremble in response. This is the dynamic force that animates the lineal figures of the pentagram and the hexagram, transforming them from mere diagrams into potent vortices of magical force. To wield these forces, the adept must fashion for himself a set of magical implements, which are not mere ceremonial props, but are in fact extensions and magnifications of his own spiritual faculties. The four primary weapons correspond to the four elements and the four letters of the tetragrammaton. The fire wand, the magical implement of the suit of wands, is the instrument of the will, corresponding to the letter Yod. With it, the magician directs and commands the subtle forces of creation. The water cup, of the suit of cups, is the instrument of the spiritual understanding and receptivity, corresponding to the first He. It is the Holy Grail from which the adept receives the divine influx. The air dagger, of the suit of swords, is the instrument of the reasoning faculty, the Ruach, corresponding to the letter vowel. With it, the magician analyzes, divides, and discriminates, cutting away illusion to reveal the truth. And finally, the earth pentacle, of the suit of pentacles, is the instrument of the body and of final manifestation, corresponding to the final He. It is the ground upon which all the higher forces are brought to fruition and made manifest in the material world. Each of these implements must be painstakingly constructed and meticulously consecrated by the adept himself, engraved with the appropriate divine names and sigils so that they become not just objects, but living talismans, perfectly attuned to his own sphere of sensation and capable of channeling the cosmic forces which they represent. Above and beyond these four is the great symbol of the Adeptus Minor, the Rose-Cross Laman itself, a complete synthesis of the macrocosm, representing the 22 paths as the petals of a rose, blossoming upon the cross of the four elements, all under the presidency of the reconciling central principle of Tiferet. It is the symbol of the perfected man, the adept in whom the forces of the microcosm have been brought into a state of perfect, balanced harmony, a fit vehicle for the descent of the divine light. This entire system of magical practice is built upon a central formula, a mystery of sacrifice and redemption which is encoded in the keyword INRI. Through Kabbalistic analysis, these four letters yield the names of the great Virgin Mother Isis, the destroying serpent Apophis, and the slain and risen god Osiris. Their initials, IAO, form a great name of power, the Gnostic name for the supreme divinity. But a greater mystery is revealed when the holy letter Shin, the letter of the divine spirit, is placed within the center of the great name Tetragrammaton, Yod, He, Vau, He, transforming it into the name Yod, He, Shin, Vau, He, Yeshua, the name of the Redeemer. This is the central formula of Tifereth, the mystery of the descent of the divine into the human, which through an act of supreme self-sacrifice purifies and redeems the lower nature, raising it up to reunion with the Godhead. This is the ultimate purpose of all ceremonial magic within the Golden Dawn, to enact this great formula of redemption within the soul of the magician himself. As a further and most profound key to the universal system of correspondences, the Golden Dawn presents several distinct modes of divination, each designed to train a different faculty of the soul and to open new gateways of perception. The most well-known of these is the tarot, which is presented not as a simple tool for fortune-telling, but as a complete pictorial language of the soul and the universe. The 78 cards of the tarot pack are revealed as nothing less than the tree of life itself, rendered into a silent pageant of archetypal imagery. The 22 trumps, or major arcana, are explicitly attributed to the 22 paths which connect the Sephiroth, each card a living, breathing glyph of the spiritual experience and the universal law which governs that particular channel of becoming. The four suits, the wands of fire, the cups of water, the swords of air, and the pentacles of earth, are assigned to the four Kabbalistic worlds and to the four letters of the ineffable name, Tetragrammaton. The 10 numbered cards of each suit, from the ace to the 10, correspond directly to the 10 Sephiroth in each of those four worlds, revealing the nature of each divine principle as it manifests through the lens of a particular element. The 16 court cards, the kings, queens, knights, and princesses, represent the vicegerents of the divine name, the sub-rulers and active principles which govern the interplay of these forces. Thus, the tarot becomes a visual and portable tree of life, a book of Thoth, in which the entire structure of the cosmos is encoded. Its use within the order is twofold. Firstly, it is indeed a method of divination, but one of a far more profound and structured nature than is commonly understood. The intricate method detailed in these volumes, known as the opening of the key, is a complex, multi-stage operation that lays out the cards according to their celestial and Sephirotic dominions, creating a veritable astrological map of the forces at play in any given situation. To practice this method is not to idly guess at the future, but to train the intuitive faculty, the ruach, to perceive the subtle currents that flow from the past into the present and on towards their likely fruition. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, the tarot cards are used as tools for meditation and for that most crucial of magical practices, scrying in the spirit vision. Each card is understood to be a gateway, a symbolic portal into a specific region of the astral plane. The adept learns to contemplate a card, to absorb its symbolism deep into his consciousness, and then, in a state of profound concentration, to project his consciousness through the symbolic gateway of the card and into the landscape which it represents. There, he can explore its world, converse with its inhabitants, and gain direct first-hand experience of the force which the card symbolizes. This is the true power of the tarot in the Golden Dawn system. It is a set of keys to unlock the hidden doors of the psyche and the 78 mansions of the invisible world. Beyond the tarot, the order employs other ancient methods of perception. One such is geomancy, or divination by earth. This art, which may seem to the uninitiated to be a mere game of chance, is revealed as a highly structured system for analyzing the terrestrial and planetary currents which underlie any situation. The practitioner, entering a state of mental quietude, generates 16 lines of random points from which are derived the 16 symbolic figures of the art puer, amicio, fortuna major, and the rest. These figures are not arbitrary. Each is attributed to a planet and a zodiacal sign and possesses a precise set of meanings. From the first 4 figures, known as the 4 mothers, a complete astrological chart is constructed, with subsequent figures or daughters and nephews being derived through a process of logical comparison, culminating in a final figure known as the judge, which provides a synthesis of the entire reading. The system is a beautiful example of how the order took what might appear as a simple folk art and integrated it into its grand Kabbalistic framework, transforming it into a disciplined method for training the intuition. Yet another, and perhaps even more foundational, method of visionary training is the use of the tatwas. Borrowed from Hindu philosophy, the tatwas are the 5 elemental principles in their purest form: akasa, the black egg of spirit; vayu, the blue disk of air; tehas, the red triangle of fire; apas, the silver crescent of water; and prithivi, the yellow square of earth. The adept fashions a set of cards bearing these simple, potent symbols. In practice, he contemplates one such symbol, allowing its color and shape to fill his mind until he can perfectly reproduce it as a mental image when his eyes are closed. He then visualizes this symbol expanding into a great gateway, and, using the projecting sign of the neophyte, he passes through it into the elemental plane which it represents. This is the very foundation of scrying in the spirit vision. The tatwa symbols, in their primal simplicity, provide the clearest and most direct gateways into the astral worlds. The practice is a crucial form of training, teaching the adept to project his consciousness at will, to navigate the inner landscapes, to test the spirits he encounters with the proper divine names and symbols, and to return to his physical body with a clear and accurate memory of his experience. It is this skill, first learned through the tatwas, that becomes the indispensable tool for the higher work of the order, for exploring the tarot gateways, and for entering the complex worlds of the Enochian tablets. At the summit of this towering edifice of knowledge and practice, as the final and most recondite of its teachings, the Golden Dawn system presents the profound and powerful science of Enochian magic. This, as the 10th volume of the work reveals, is the crowning jewel of the entire curriculum, a system of ceremonial theurgy of unparalleled scope and potency. Transmitted to the Elizabethan sage Dr. John Dee and his seer Edward Kelly by angelic intelligences, this system was received as a series of complex diagrams and a hitherto unknown language, the angelic or Enochian tongue. It was the genius of the Golden Dawn's founders to perceive within these cryptic transmissions the master key which could unite all the other branches of their curriculum into a single, cohesive operational framework. The Enochian system is founded upon 4 great watchtower tablets, each attributed to one of the 4 elements and assigned to one of the 4 quarters of the universe. These tablets are vast grids of letters which, when analyzed according to a complex set of rules, yield the names of a complete hierarchy of spiritual beings, from the great elemental kings and seniors down to the myriad angelic forces which govern every minute subdivision of the elemental planes. A fifth tablet, the Tablet of Union, is attributed to the element of spirit and serves to bind the other four into a unified whole. To activate these tablets and to call forth their ruling intelligences, the Order employs a series of 19 angelical keys or calls. These are not mere invocations, but 19 powerful orations in the Enochian language itself, a tongue whose resonant, sonorous cadences possess an uncanny and deeply moving magical power. The practice of Enochian magic, then, represents the culmination of the adept's training. It is here that his knowledge of Qabalah, of ceremonial ritual, of tarot, and of astrology all converge. He learns to see the Watchtower tablets as detailed maps of the elemental worlds, to understand their squares as gateways into specific astral regions, and to use the angelical keys as the vibrational formulae which can open those gates. The work further expands into the exploration of the 30 ethers, or concentric circles of consciousness which surround the material world, providing a complete system for the ascent of the planes, or traveling in the spirit vision from the grossest levels of manifestation to the most sublime spiritual heights. The student is taught that these aethers are not merely locations, but states of being, and to journey through them is to undertake a systematic initiation into the deepest mysteries of the macrocosm. The system even incorporates a form of magical chess, wherein the board represents the elemental tablets and the pieces embody the various Egyptian god forms, turning a simple game into a dynamic method for understanding and manipulating the great cosmic forces. The Enochian system is thus the grand synthesis of the entire Golden Dawn tradition, a high and holy form of theurgy which provides the disciplined and purified adept with a direct and verifiable method for obtaining knowledge and conversation with those divine and angelic forces which are the governors of the created universe. The whole of this vast body of knowledge, the Kabbalistic map, the ceremonial tools, the tarot keys, and the Enochian system, is conveyed to the aspirant not through simple academic instruction, but through the profound and transformative process of ritual initiation. The Golden Dawn is a graded order, a ladder of spiritual ascent, and the rituals of these grades, meticulously preserved in these volumes, are the very heart of its method. An initiation, as understood within this tradition, is not a mere symbolic drama or a conferring of rank. It is a potent magical operation designed to work a fundamental and permanent change in the sphere of sensation of the candidate. It is a process of consciously planting the seeds of the higher knowledge within the fertile ground of the aspirant's soul. The great foundational ceremony, the rite of the neophyte grade, serves as the archetype for this process. The candidate, known as the aspirant, enters the temple hoodwinked, bound with a threefold cord, a powerful symbol of the human soul wandering in the darkness of material ignorance, bound by the chains of its lower nature. He is led on a symbolic journey, a circumambulation in the path of darkness, where he is challenged at the stations of the west and the east, the places of twilight and of dawn. He is purified by water and consecrated by fire, representing the cleansing of the emotional and volitional aspects of his being. He is bound by a great and solemn obligation, pledging himself to the great work and to the service of the light. Then, at the central moment of the rite, as he kneels before the altar, the hoodwink is finally removed, and he is brought from darkness into light. This is not merely a physical unveiling, but a spiritual one, as the profound commentaries on this ritual, known as the Z documents, reveal. This is the moment when a link is forged between the natural consciousness of the aspirant and his own higher and divine genius. The ritual is a psycho-spiritual engine which, through the combined use of symbol, color, sound, and movement, awakens the latent spiritual faculties within the candidate, opening his inner eyes to the dawning of a higher reality. The roles of the officers are not merely dramatic parts. They are living archetypes, assumed through the potent theurgic technique known as the assumption of God forms. The Hierophant, seated on the throne of the East, embodies the perfected Osiris, the expounder of the mysteries, the source of the dawning light. The Hiereus on the throne of the West embodies Horus, the avenging sun, the lord of strength and severity who guards the gates against the darkness. And between them, the Hegemon, in pure white, embodies the principle of reconciliation, the goddess Thama Est, who guides the soul upon the balanced middle path. The interplay of these divine forms creates the sacred magical tension within which the candidate is transformed. Each subsequent grade of the outer order initiates him into the mysteries of one of the four elements, further balancing and purifying his nature, until he stands at last at the portal of the vault of the Adepti, ready to begin the work of the inner order. Within that symbolic tomb of the founder, Christian Rosenkreuz, a heptagonal chamber representing the universe, he undergoes a mystical death and resurrection, a profound initiation into the mysteries of Tifereth, the sphere of sacrifice and spiritual rebirth. These rituals are the living soul of the system, for they do not merely teach the student about the light, they are designed, with sublime ingenuity, to bring him experientially into the light. In contemplating this vast esoteric edifice, we are forced to a final and powerful conclusion. The work of Israel Regardie in publishing the complete Golden Dawn system of magic was more than an act of preservation. It was an act of profound reinitiation for the Western world itself. He found the temple in ruins, its pillars fallen, its altars cold, and its light in danger of being extinguished forever. With tireless labor and unwavering courage, he gathered the scattered stones, deciphered the faded inscriptions, and re-erected the temple in the clear light of day, not for a secret few, but for all who possess the sincerity and the will to enter. What is presented here is a timeless and living system of human evolution. It is a methodical, ordered, and supremely practical path for the soul's journey. It offers to the modern seeker not a vague set of spiritual platitudes, but a rigorous discipline of mind, a purification of the heart, and a training of the will. Its ultimate goal is nothing less than the great work itself, the conscious and willed reunification of the human soul with its divine source, the marriage of the microcosm with the macrocosm, the attainment of that state in which the adept, having balanced the forces within his own nature, can truly say, "I am the reconciler with the ineffable. I am the dweller of the invisible." This book is the chart and compass for that sublime voyage, a sacred trust which reminds us that the Golden Dawn is not a historical memory, but an eternal promise, a spiritual dawn that is ever waiting to break forth in the heart of the earnest and dedicated aspirant. Thank you for delving into the complete Golden Dawn system of magic with occult mysticism. Share your insights below and join our community. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for more magical wisdom. Until next time, keep practicing the mysteries.